For the first 2 years of my Airbnb business, I actually lived in the garage at the first Airbnb. And I had holes in the floor, I had no kitchen, I had a mattress on the floor, and the guests upstairs were paying me about €80 a night each. Everybody wants to know how I became an Airbnb nomad and travel the world and run everything from my laptop. But this is what not everybody has seen on the journey. Now, why did I choose to live in the garage of my first Airbnb? It was a strategic choice, actually. I wasn't forced. I could have moved back in with my parents, but it was strategic because I had no comfort, but I had my own space, my own bubble. You know, I could stay up at night. I could work as long as I wanted. I could stick things on my wall. I could, plan and set out my own life and control my time. I'd much prefer that than living in somebody else's house, and you have to maintain the house and you have to do things. If you're living with your parents, it's a whole different thing, So it was a strategic choice. And there was a few positives about it. And that was obviously your own space. You do whatever you want, stay up as long as you want, get up at whatever time you want, set your own schedule. But also, I could be focused on the guests upstairs because I was there. I was on call. So if anybody needed anything, boom, I'd be straight there. I could help them. I could help them with whatever was going on. And that really boosted my reviews. I was getting 5-star reviews every single time because I was actually there and I was going the extra mile. I wasn't just like, yeah, do it yourself. I was really there, and like if they'd asked me for something that had nothing to do with the business, I'd still be there and I'd try and get it done for them. I'd try and help them find, excursions or taxis or where to get something they were looking for, or, I'd be on call like really fast. And that obviously doesn't happen in, when you scale a business. But that is what you can use at the start when you're starting your Airbnb business to really go the extra mile, get 5-star reviews and really pump up the business. So day-to-day life living from my garage, this is kind of what it looked like. I was, I had holes in the floor, like literal holes in the floor, because the damp was coming up and the towels were popping. So for some reason, the floor was getting all deformed. And I had the mattress on the floor, and I had a desk. It was an old desk that I'd actually taken from the upstairs, and it was like missing a drawer. It was like a makeup desk kind of thing. So I put my laptop on there, and I brought a chair, and that was it. That's all I had. And then I grew and I had another mattress on the floor. So I had 2 mattresses on the floor. And then I got like a secondhand, really old, really basic bed. And that's when I advanced from the floor up a little bit. And I would just order food. So obviously I was making some money from upstairs, and I would order food and I would eat out 3 times a day. And that would save me time, no cooking, no washing. And I hate to do that anyway, so didn't really need a kitchen. It was a crazy time living down there. It was really like discovering myself again. But I put some yoga mats down, so I would stretch in the morning and in the evening. I had a projector that I put on the big white wall so I could watch YouTube in the evenings. And it was a really good place to build myself up from, And it was really good because I wasn't spending any money on rent. So rent was, the most expensive thing that you're paying for monthly. So I got rid of rent completely, which is awesome because all the money I earned, I'd literally just have to buy myself food, and that was it. The rest would go back into the business. So I knew the more I sacrificed at the start, the faster I would grow, the more cash flow I'd have to be able to grow the business. Because, you can get your first 3K month, 5K month, or whatever you do, and you can go and spend that. But then how do you grow the business? You're going to grow way slower because you can't use any of your capital. You're not saving anything, you're not investing anything, so you can't really grow. So living in my garage and sacrificing before led me to grow faster and to be able to really use the freedom that I have now at the age that I am now. If not, it would have taken more years to get to where I am. So living in the garage was actually strategic, and it was a great decision that I made. Also, it's you can always go back and look at the times you lived in the garage, and now I'm living in Bali in a $1 million villa with its own gym and its own office and its own sauna and ice bath and massive pool and jacuzzi and all of these things. I've got a fish pond at the entrance. Now I can compare that to living in my garage with holes in the floor and a mattress. So the comparison's awesome. Now, while I was in the garage, I was after I'd made a good job as my first Airbnb, that's when I started to scale. So I went from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. And what I did is I knew that my property was working, and I knew the amenities that it had, the area it was in, the layout that it had. So I just literally went and replicated it. I went to look for properties that were in the same area with the same characteristics, kind of the same view, ones that I could put similar amenities in, and I just scaled. So I took the cash flow from number 1 and I put it into number 2. It paid for the number 2's down payment, and it paid for the first month's rent and the reform. So I took the cash from 1 and put it into number 2. And then I got the cash from number 2 and 1 after a few more months, and I put it into number 3. And then I did the same with 4. And then what happened is I ended up putting the money back in to buy the first villa. So that's another story for another day because it's quite technical in the numbers. But that's how I ended up buying what is about to be almost a €3 million villa, because we're about to go into a big reform. So yeah, it all came back from reinvesting. And at the end of this year, I'll probably make a video and showing you how all this reinvesting turned into this €3 million villa that I'll hopefully have completed before the end of this year. Now, I didn't leave my garage until I was making over 10K a month in profit. I didn't leave the garage because it was where I was living. Rent is really expensive, so it's kind of pointless of going to get your own place because you're not going to get a very nice place for a few thousand. So you may as well sacrifice and basically live in a garage. And I knew I was building up to be able to have freedom, because my dream was never a nice house where I lived. My dream was always to be a nomad. I wanted to travel. I wanted to see places, meet new people, surf better waves, see better places. So it was pointless me getting an apartment. It's just burning money when that money I could be reinvesting. So it all depends on what your goals are. But if your goal is to become, an Airbnb nomad, then sacrifice more. Live way below your means. Work on yourself and your business. And then when the time comes and the money goes and rises to the level that you're at, then you can actually go and enjoy it. Was it worth it? Okay, so the short answer is yeah, 100%. It was 100% worth the sacrifice, because as I say, I got there way faster than I would have if I was blowing the money, popping bottles, and spending my money on rent, just trying to kind of show off. So it was definitely worth it, because you get to where you actually want to be way faster. And that's actually something that I take into every decision that I make. Like right now, I'm going to start to live below my means to get to the next level, because you just get there faster. If you're spending your money and allocating your money on getting to where you want to be instead of showing off, then you're going to get there a lot faster. So it was 100% worth it. Now, if you want to see exactly how I got from living in the garage to where I am today, go and watch this video below. I'm going to put it in the description, and that's my complete story. Go and watch that video, because it's going to explain exactly what I went through and how I actually got from where I was to where I am today, living in this crazy house in Bali. And also, if you actually want to go and learn about Airbnb, then go and watch the second video in the description below, because that's going to give you real insights into how you can actually start your own business and get your first Airbnb under your belt and start the path to freedom. So go to the description below, go check them out, and yeah, we're going to be posting way more content. It's going to be, about my story, about Airbnb specifically, about freedom, about overcoming mental health, even some of my fitness journey, but the whole thing is going to be about how to transform as a young man into the man you actually want to be, with the freedom that you want and desire, with the body, with the lifestyle, and with everything else. So until the next, peace.